This episode might not have been action packed, but itself was impactful. It was masterfully well done in storytelling from Mark's perspective and also Nolan and from Thrag. We, the audience, for us non comic Invincible readers, think the Viltrumites are heading to Earth to just lay waste to everything and make them suffer for what they did to their own planet. But it's not that because Mark gets there and discovers no, they're not there. They're nowhere to be found. Nothing has happened. And now he has to deal with the aftermath of being gone for months at a time. And he really struggles with that in terms of not being there for Eve, not being there for
I'm
his
okay.
mother, but also with what
It's
happened
okay.
with Thrag, him getting his absolute ass kicked and dealing with the consequences of that and the mental toll
He's
and
gonna be
trauma that
fine.
he now has on
But
himself.
we
He's
were
seeing
worried
all
that.
his loved ones just, he envisions them just being attacked brutally and murdered by Thrag. Anyone he cares about killed. And he has these panic attacks. But then he kind of
This
takes
is
these
the
breaths and
smallest
it's
we
not there.
can
It's not
do.
happening. It's all in his
What
head.
you
And he
did
feels
to
this throughout
us.
the episode. And I love how it's well done. And then when we get ultimately to the end, where Thrag actually is there as Mark's flying around, clearing his head because he just wants to get out there. And then Thrag is sitting there waiting for him. And he flashes through all of these traumatic events that he kind of envisioned happening. And then that's
Come
when
on,
he loses it.
answer.
And he attacks Thrag. And Thrag's like, no, what are you doing? Do not do this. I have come reasonable. I've come to be reasonable with you. I think this is the beauty of Thrag as well because he is nuanced. He's not just villain versus like rah rah rah. I'm going to destroy everything. No, he has layers. He has depth to him, and I think that's what makes him awesome because we saw he spared Mark's life, and then he goes here and he gives Mark a choice. Granted, it's a choice that Mark pretty much has to make, and it's an impossible one to make. But Thrag gives him a choice. Hey, we will not interfere with anything on earth. We won't kill people. We will just live our lives and we're going to procreate and create kind of breed on earth for our empire to survive because ultimately that's what he wants. He wants his people to live, to survive, and to thrive. And Mark does not want to hear this, but then Mark has these flashes of everything bad that's happened that he envisioned happening to those people
Come
that
on,
he cares
answer.
the most about. And that's where he has to come to the realization, too, that
Come on,
what's
answer.
best for Earth. If he says no, Thrag is going to just beat the ever living crap out of him, and the Viltrumites are going to just lay waste to Earth and kill, as Thrag said, billions of people and rebuild it. We love a villain with layers to him, and that's exactly what Thrag is laying out. And Mark is left with an impossible choice: fight, probably
Answer
die, and
this.
lose all your loved ones, or accept his terms, deal with the fact, and figure out a
Yes.
plan to eventually get him off world. And he eventually accepts those terms, but he has
I
that
accept your
consequence because
terms.
Thrag tells him, "You won't see me again." And as he flies away, Martin just sits there alone, and he's the loneliest person in the world at this moment in time. Because I love how it's shot; it kind of zooms out, and he just thinks to himself, "What have I done?" Because he's allowing the Viltrumites to now breed, to
The universe is
expand and grow
strange.
themselves too, and procreate on Earth. An impossible decision Mark had to make. But now, what is he to do? I love the nuance here. I love everything about it. Like I said, it's masterfully impactful in storytelling without being an action-packed episode. What a great season finale Invincible was, and there's so many layers to dive into now too. Because what's going to go on with Alan and the Coalition of Planets? Because he got that message from Thetis saying, "Hey, here's my last-ditch resort,
I
the
started
Scourge Virus."
and let
Part
nothing
two,
stop
and
you.
it can take out everyone, all the Viltrumites and people
No
like Mark as
matter
well.
the
So it's like
cost.
Alan is left with an impossible choice now
Every
too. What does he
last
do with that
Viltrumite
information? Does he tell
must
Nolan? Does he
die.
tell Mark? Does he attack? My guess is Alan's probably going to kind of, he doesn't, begrudgingly, he's probably going to attack because he's going to be pressured from all the planets and whatnot too. And that's where Mark is going to have to make a decision to maybe team up with Bragg possibly in the future. And I do love too the kind of setting up too, because while I'm not a reader of the Invincible comics, I know that eventually Mark is the emperor and ruler in some regard. I don't know exactly how it comes about, whatever. But I know he eventually does become Emperor Mark. And Thrag kind of, I feel like, alludes to and hints to that in this moment as well. Because he tells him this right here.
The universe is strange. In a way, you've become our savior. Willing or not.
Thrag tells Mark, hey, you saved everyone on this planet. The universe is a strange thing. And he gets this look in his eye. I think he's like, he admires Mark in that moment. He respects Mark's decision that he's made. I think
You
he
have
sees
saved
something
the
in
lives
Mark too. So I'm
of
very curious to
every
see where
living
that kind of
thing
leads
on
and how
this
their dynamic
planet.
grows going forward in the coming season. But like I said, there's a ton to dive into. There's so much to this episode too. Nolan's redemption as well as he's going there. He goes to the exact spot where he beat the ever living crap out of Mark, almost killed his son, where he took out all these people too. He goes there and he's just thinking, and Cecil shows up. They have a great conversation too, because Cecil in that moment is still scared of Nolan. He tells Nolan, like, get the fuck off the planet now. You don't belong here. I don't trust you. I've died countless and countless of times almost, and you almost died once, and now you want redemption. But that's the cool thing about Nolan. He's on this path to redemption because he feels the consequences of his actions. They weigh on him. That moment right there in that crater is what irreparably changed Nolan forever. Seeing Mark in that vulnerable state on the bridge of death and him saying, I still have you. That changed Nolan's mindset. He spent on this art trying to redeem himself too, trying to get back in his good graces. That conversation he had with Debbie, like I said, Nolan and Debbie's dynamic and their conversations too are some of the best parts of this show, especially this season too, because Nolan is doing so much. He's trying to do what's best in his mind too to get back there and apologize and say he feels the consequences and he wants to make amends. But Debbie, as she should, does not believe him too. But she tells him what when I'm with Paul again. Another consequence of their actions of Mark and them being gone. Things have changed on Earth too. So Debbie in that moment saying, "Hey, Paul is no longer in the picture," and Nolan's like, "Huh." But then Debbie is like, I got to be there for Oliver too. Let this happen to him. And Nolan's like, I'm going to be
Because
with
you're
him now.
taking me with you.
Debbie's like, I'm a mother. I should be there too. So I love that she's going up there to space too. I'm very curious to see what happens with her and Nolan's dynamic too. And then all this stuff with Eve, because we knew that Eve was pregnant, but she never got the chance to tell Mark this. And so eventually she does, and she breaks down in tears. It's such an emotional scene too. It's so beautifully well done. And again, another great moment too in the show of just storytelling and her saying, I was pregnant, Mark. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't have a chance to tell you. And I was worried that you were never going to come back. So she did something that was in the best interest for her, what she thought was the right thing. She got an abortion. And it breaks Mark too because he couldn't be there for her. Imagine you're in Mark's position. You had to go out because it's for the best interest of the entire galaxy to fight these people. But your true loved one is down there on Earth alone. As Eve tells him, I was alone. I had no one there. I had to go through this all by myself. And Mark feels that pain. And I think that also influences his decisions overall too, because he doesn't want Eve to be alone. So he knows also, going back to the Thrag moment too, if he chooses no, do not accept Thrag's terms and fights him, he's ultimately probably going to die and leave Eve alone again, and she'll be there with that. So it's an all circular. It's a great episode of storytelling too, and I love those emotional beats as well. Like I said, it's a phenomenal episode. It's a great way to end a season of awesomeness and greatness, and I think Rival Season One for my personal favorite overall seasons too. And it has definitely has my favorite episode of the series. I think with last week's episode too, but. I'm very curious to see where season 5 goes and beyond with all these different things that kind of laid the groundwork for what's going to happen with Alan and the Coalition of Planets, Nolan going into space with Debbie, Thrag and the Viltrumites being on Earth and blending in. And let's just talk about them for a second too. Lucan blending in a suit. We got Anissa walking through the park looking, hello there, Anissa. And then Krieg, my guy, he said, I'm coming to Earth. I'm integrating immediately. I'm getting leather jacket, I'm putting on some jeans. If I gotta smoke a cigarette, the motorcycle too. And I bet he's going to be laying down the wood come in the seasons to come. I look forward to next season. Like I said, a perfect season in my mind. I loved everything about it. I love the penultimate episode, my favorite of a series, I think. And it's episode 2, a magnificent end to the season to put a bow tie on everything and leaves with so many open-ended questions of what's going to happen next, what the Viltrumites is going to do. How does Mark live with the consequences of these actions and his decisions now too? Because he's told Thrag and them, you guys can stay here on Earth. What does that mean for all the humans? But I can't wait to